Meeting of the Highlands Board of Commissioners, Thursday, April 18th, 2024. That we can hear. No, we did not. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda will be a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Now, if we'll all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our third item on the agenda will be the statement of a conflict of interest. It is posted in our packet. If any board member has a conflict of interest on any item that we'll be covering, of course, they should let the board know of that potential conflict. The next item will be our public comment period. And let me just make sure that everyone understands that we have the general public comment period, which is before us. And then tonight, we're going to have a public hearing concerning the Our Lady of the Mountain Catholic Church. And in that public comment, I'll invite anyone who would like to make a statement concerning that item to come forward and make a comment. But right now, if anyone would like to come and make a public comment, I'm going to give you the floor. If you'll come before us, state your name, and we'd appreciate it if you'd keep the comment below 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Josh. My name is Kathy Henson. I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary this year of being a homeowners in Highlands, North Carolina. And germane to my comments tonight, my third year as president of the Highlands Neighborhood Coalition. We had a meeting of our supporters yesterday. We had approximately 15 neighborhoods represented, and some comments bubbled up that, given my opportunity to bring to the board's attention, I thought I would use my time tonight. And it was specifically, you won't be shocked to know, about short-term rentals. And so before the season gets too busy, many of the attendees asked the question about enforcement. And to quote the old Ghostbuster movie, who are you going to call? They don't know what the process is when they have a problematic short-term rental next door. They are loath to call 911 because these are typically nuisance calls, not emergency calls. So I'm just here to ask the board to make more public, either on its website or however, what the process should be. And it reminded me that last July, almost 9 months ago, the board had talked about purchasing the Granicus software, where you would have a reporting function on the town website that is not there. I don't know whatever happened with that, but just to bring to the board's attention an easier and more open way of notifying homeowners how to report a problem if they have a short-term rental next door in their neighborhood. And it also, one of the topics that came up yesterday was there's still no information about how many and where the existing or approved short-term rentals are allowed to operate. So some people reported that all of a sudden they'll have one pop up in their neighborhood that they're not sure is an approved one or one that should be challenged. And there's no easy way to find out how to challenge or find out if that's an approved short-term rental in a neighborhood. So again, most people know to go to the town website. If you could have something on the website that helps people facilitate reporting a nuisance or a problem, that would be appreciated. And finally, I just want to restate our best Highland ambassador and board member, Lila Howland's request that at a workshop, hopefully when most of our seasonal and second homeowners are here, to have a workshop for residents, and I mean local residents part-time residents, seasonal residents to come to the board and share whatever issues they're having as homeowners and residents in Highlands. So I
Okay.
appreciate your consideration of those requests.
All right, thank you. Josh, would you like to make a response about the call center?
So you're correct. The Granicus software for the hotline was purchased a year ago. We've had multiple conversations with them. Their software has experienced a number of glitches, and so that is not online. As of now, we're actually looking at a different software going forward, potentially to change to that has the same type of, access to the hotline to call into. So that's what we're looking at in the future. No decisions have been made yet, but that's the reason for that. Again, it's something that I think they put online, and they started it and then had some major issues with the software. So that's the reason we didn't get the hotline up. I do encourage people to call 911 if you've having nuisance problems, and the police will respond to that. That's the best way to get to it. Is during the week you can call town hall, talk to Michael Mathis, the planning director, and he can check into it if somebody's got a question on, if it's the STR, it's approved STR or non-approved STR. He can definitely check into that. So that would be my response.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Hearing none, let us move to item number 5. That's to review and approve the agenda. Do we have any changes, additions to the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Second. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. We have an agenda. Item number 6, approval of the March 21st regular meeting minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, or clarifications?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item will be report, starting with the mayor. First of all, we had the Plateau pickup this past weekend. I want to congratulate the Chamber of Commerce for putting that event on. I also want to express appreciation to the U.S. Forest Service, our police department, the sheriff's department, the DOT. Everybody worked together to ensure that that was a successful event. But I want to really express my appreciation to our Highlands Sanitation Department. They work on the weekends. They put out the big dumpsters where all of those mini bags of trash were deployed. Larry Holt, the head of sanitation, makes sure that all of those bags of trash are taken very quickly to the transfer station for Macon County and disposed of. So I appreciate everybody and all of their work. Other thing I want to say that that the mayor, town manager, and Commissioner Weller will all be traveling this weekend this week to Winston-Salem to attend the League of Municipalities annual City Vision, where we'll be going to workshops, meeting with other folks at other municipalities, meeting with vendors who sell things for cities. So it will be a 3-day event, which will be something that we'll all benefit and learn from. Then also, I've been asked to serve on the board of the Southwestern Regional Planning Commission and eventually become the first vice president of that board. And I've accepted that as of this week. Then finally, I want to do a shout out to our electrical crews. I know we had high winds this past weekend. My wife and I have a house where we have big, tall white pines around our house. So we went down to our basement level to sleep because the wind was so intense. And about 11:30, the power went out. I was awake and I said, oh my gosh, our electric crews are going to have to get out and start dealing with some very difficult situations and weather. They had to kind of wait a little bit until the winds were not so intense. But one thing I wanted to say, our police department was on duty also. We had a white pine blow down on Main Street. Our police were there with blue lights and someone, and it appears in the paper as if the tree fell on the car, but that's not the story. The person went around the squad car with the blue lights and the policeman trying to say, stop, and they ran into the tree. And my point is, as we go into, especially this season with a lot of people here, I would appreciate people responding to simple things like blue lights and red lights of our, first responders and fire department. But I appreciate that all of the people that work for the town, that when we have a very difficult situation like that, they get out and make sure that we have a safe and protected town. So thank you. All right, the next item would be the report from the commissioners. Do any commissioners have something?
Yeah, I want to say Jeff and I have been working with the Chamber of Commerce and Joanna and Kay, and they have developed all the what should I say, like the campaign, fundraising campaign materials for the fundraising, and so that's going to be hitting the street soon. So you're going to be hearing more about that. For the playground fundraising. So it looks great, professional.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other reports from the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll get a report from our town manager.
And just to follow up, on the playground, we are almost finished for our submittal to the Partet folks for a potential grant for that. So keep your fingers crossed here in the next few months. Hopefully we'll get a grant for a pretty large portion of that playground going forward. Also, I would like to echo what the mayor said. I'd like to thank the electric crew and the street crew that were out and the police department out all night last Thursday night. Had a lot of power to restore, a lot of trees to cut. They worked all night, all the next day. And, the wind was very bad, as bad as they've seen it in a long time. And so we just got to know when those guys are out at night, battling those high winds and things. Just remember, your power might be off for a little while, but their safety's at hand as well. So I'd like to thank them for that. Little Bear Pen Road, for those of you who tried to go up Little Bear Pen lately, our street crew has been taking down the trees on the embankment so that we can start the road repair. They'll be finishing that up next week. That's been closed during the week or during the day and then open at night. After next week, for 3 weeks in a row, it'll be closed 24/7 for GSI to come in and actually do the roadside repairs there. So just keep that in mind. Have to go through Sherwood Forest to leave out all those on top of Little Bear Pen. Big Bear Pen, we've been working with the DOT for a while. The contract was let. If you've been up there anytime in the last week or so, they've been putting some grade stakes up for the center lines and the top of cut. The DOT said that they'll be starting by April the 29th on that. So there'll be some closures there. And I don't know how long it's going to take. They didn't have a timeline for me. So that'll be starting soon on the widening. That'll go from Chestnut Street up to Upper Lake Road.
And Josh, I want to share with the public the conversation we had in your office today. And that's, we've gotten a lot of grant money, starting with the Dog Mountain water tank and so forth, the water plant. We've gotten and Mirror Lake, we've gotten a lot of money. And I kind of feel guilty in that I played a role in getting that money, and it translates into more work for Josh's staff. Rebecca Schuler, our finance director, Lamar, a lot of people have to do a lot of preliminary work, getting reports in, design work, and so forth. And I want to just communicate to the public, we've done our job. We've hit those marks. We've got the paperwork in. And what we're discovering, and Josh was researching this, is there is a tremendous number of these types of grants and projects throughout the state and the country right now. And there's a lot of paperwork being generated. And it seems to me that there are paperwork funnels that we're now facing with the state. Everybody sends it in, and then it gets into kind of a narrow review process. And while we've sent things in and we're saying we're ready to go, we have to wait for the state auditors and procurement people to do all these reviews. And that's kind of the frustrating part about this. It takes longer to get through the preliminary paperwork before we actually see a shovel in the ground. So just wanted to make people, aware of that challenge that we're facing. Okay, number 8, the consent agenda. Do we have any questions, concerns about anything in the consent agenda packet? Second. All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item will be public hearing, Our Lady of the Mountain Catholic Church, B1 conditional zoning request. Do I have a motion that we open the public hearing?
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. The first part of this public hearing will be staff comments and recommendations. Mr. Michael Mathis.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to go back over the staff memo, it's been, I guess, 2 months since the last time the board got to review this. So Our Lady of the Mountains submitted a conditional zoning application to the planning department on November 30th, 2023. According to application number 113023CZ, the petitioner is requesting a conditional rezoning from R2 residential to B1 commercial conditional zoning. The subject property is 2.39 acres and is located in the balance of the water supply watershed 3. According to section 4.5.1 of the Unified Development Ordinance, conditional zoning district decisions are legislative decisions subject to judicial review using the same procedures and standards of review as apply to general use zoning district decisions. Before the Board of Commissioner rules on a conditional zoning request, the UDO requires that the zoning and planning boards review the proposal and give their recommendations. According to the proposal, the site will be developed in 3 phases. Sheet C201 of the proposed plan indicates that the existing amount of impervious surface is 0.49 acres, or 21% of the lot. Once all 3 phases are completed, the post-development amount of impervious surface is projected to be 0.90 acres, or 38% of the lot. According to section 8.4.3 of the UDO, non-residential lots in the watershed 3 balance of the watershed that exceed 1/2 acres are permitted a maximum of 50% built upon area. The applicant's conditions can be found in the agenda packet. Town of Highlands Zoning Board of Adjustment reviewed the application in December. Their recommendation is to approve the request subject to the following changes. The statement about the exemption from the community design standard shall be removed from the applicant's conditions, which it was, and the size of the parking area should be reduced if it affects the buffer between the church and the Hudson Library. The Town of Highlands Planning Board reviewed this application in January. Their recommendation is to approve the request. The Planning Board affirmed the zoning board's conditions and added that 4 parking spaces on the southeast corner of the property closest to the Hudson Library be removed to preserve a buffer between the parcels. If everyone will remember the last time that they were here, it had been brought up, I believe Commissioner Dotson brought up shifting the parking down a little bit to make room for a buffer area between the Hudson Library and the new church parking. The new plans do show that. I'm sorry, they're a little grainy, but we had to scan them in. They were bigger, but they actually are going to shift 10 feet, that parking lot down 10 feet to add space for a buffer area between them and the Hudson Library.
So that would mean they don't need to, we don't
Remove the
remove
parking.
the 4.
It would still have the parking that they've proposed the entire time, but they will shift to add
So
room
they'll
for
get
that
the
buffer.
whole 31.
Yes, it's the 20, and I've got Father Barone, I've got Emmett Sapp, Craig Justice, and then their architect is on here. I believe it was, is it 25 and 6? Is that how it is?
Right, it's 25 spaces.
If you come up here. Emmett.
So just to clarify, as it relates to that buffer, we did shift the parking down is 3 feet to provide a 3-foot buffer. So we've been really appreciative of this process. this conditional zoning process, which lends itself to collaboration and discussion with folks, leadership in the town, such as yourselves and the other boards. And we've heard the comments and questions that you've had, and I think that what we've proposed in providing this 3-foot buffer is actually a better solution than we initially thought of. So we're very grateful for all of your efforts in being open and collaborative and communicative with us.
So then it'll be a planted buffer, not just a grass buffer.
That's correct. So on the plan, it's probably very hard to see if you have a small cover what we're planning is, and I've got a list of it too, actually. Is to plant 5 green giant arborvitae,
Mhm.
7 Yoshino cherry, 5 Nellie Stevens holly, and 8 rhododendron, which would be relocated. So we're preserving some that are existing on site.
Are you the architect or are you?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm Emmett Sapp. I'm Director of Construction and Real Estate for the Diocese of Charlotte.
Oh, okay.
So what I do is I assist the Catholic churches throughout western part of the state as they plan and execute projects. And so I've been working very closely with the Our Lady of the Mountains community. We do have Father Barone here, who is the administrator of Our Lady of the Mountains. We also have Jacob Chase with McCreary Architects is online. And we also have Greg Hoffman from CDC. He's the civil engineer that we'll be working with as well. So I know that they'd be happy to take questions again as well.
Thank you for addressing that buffer and relooking at that.
Yeah, I
That's
appreciate you're working with this and leaving the wetlands as much as possible. I did have a couple of questions and maybe partially for Michael. So you have 18 current parking spaces, is that correct?
18, is that, yes.
Okay, and so you up it to 31. The parish hall, that's going to be used how and when?
Parish Hall is used as a gathering space for people who attend mass at the church. They gather afterwards for coffee and
Okay,
socialize.
so it would be a Sunday type thing too. You're not going to have middle of the week gatherings that don't. have enough
There
parking.
are meetings that various groups within the church may have, during the week as well. And Father Barone could probably speak a little better to that. But I will tell you that right now we also have a parish hall. It's the lower level of the existing building.
Oh, okay.
So what we're doing is
You're
we're trying,
just separating. them.
right. So we're replacing the buildings that are there, have been there for a long time. And all of this project started out of a desire to replace them with something that's newer, more functional, and more beautiful. And so it's essentially the same. We're replacing what we have.
And let me add, I visited the site, met with Father Brown. One of the things that I'd emphasize is the actual sanctuary, the capacity isn't that much more than what you already have, yet you're increasing the parking capacity.
That's
Yeah.
right. So right now we have 262 existing seats in the church, and the new church will have 268. So we're increasing by 2%, while we're increasing parking in the end by 72%, in the first phase by 39% to 25.
Yeah, we don't want to pay paradise here, so for parking. So I appreciate also the fact that we are able to do these kinds of things and address issues, including things like stormwater and buffers and those kinds of things. But I didn't realize that you already had a parish hall. It just wasn't the
Just
same
stacked.
place on the map, so I couldn't see it. I don't have any, I think I have any questions for. I have one for Michael, but I don't, when we make the new zoning map,
Yes.
what is B5?
Beef. Is that what it says on there?
Yeah. That center legend there, we got B2, B3, B4, B5, B5.
It may have just been a typo. I'll check with Carlton, but no, it's only beef.
Okay, I thought, man, I slept through that.
No,
that meeting. I
no
don't
B5.
remember that at all.
No
Okay.
B5.
No B5.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Staff recommendation?
Yeah, I've read my staff report if you want to open it up for anybody from the public.
Okay. Thank you.
Does the planning or the zoning board have any comment on the 4 parking places as long as there's a buffer?
I believe it was all a buffer issue, and that was the reason they wanted to remove the 4, but I think with them shifting it down,
They'd be fine
and
with that.
I believe that covers what their concern was.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael. Anything else? Michael, anything
Oh, no,
else?
No, sir.
Okay. The next item would be the public comment period. So I would invite anyone who would like to make a comment on this proposal to come forward. For the record, I'd appreciate you stating your name, and we will now open it up for public comment.
Good evening. I'm Father Jason Barone, parochial administrator of Our Lady of the Mountains. I've been here about 5 years, and I just want to thank you all for your time and consideration this evening. Emmett took some of my steam already in saying what the basic vision is, that of renewal and replacement, essentially. And so we look forward to meeting the needs of our community and hopefully adding to just just what makes Highlands a very special place by having yet another beautiful place for people to go, open to the public, et cetera. So I'd like to thank everybody who supported us throughout this process, and thank parishioners and others who have come here this evening to show their support. If I could ask them just to show your hand, raise your hand if y'all, okay, great. So that's pretty much it. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Father. Would anyone else like to make a public comment?
Close
Hearing,
the public hearing?
hearing none, I would now move. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. The next item would be council action. I will entertain a motion by a commissioner.
I'll make a motion to approve the Our Lady of the Mountain Catholic Church B1 conditional zoning request,
And that it is consistent with the
and that it's consistent
And
with what
comprehensive
the
plan
comprehensive plan,
and the state, just make mention of the statement of reasonableness on there as
the
well.
statement of reasonableness. I'm sorry, the ordinance and the zoning.
Okay,
as
Mal.
presented,
As
as presented,
presented.
as presented.
as
I
presented.
got it.
Gibby, do you have that statement?
You got that?
Okay. You got-
I'll second every bit of that.
Okay, you got a second?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, it's unanimous. Appreciate, Michael, your work and the parishioners and the Father Barone. Thank you.
That's the easiest meeting that architects ever had.
Yeah. Okay, the next item would be item number 10, Unified Development Ordinance Amendments. And I will call on Michael Mathis again to make that presentation.
Okay.
We'll wait, let
Yeah.
some folks that need to be leaving. Okay, Michael.
Yes, sir. So if you'll remember, we're amending the policy for the planning and zoning board how it relates to terms and time of service. That also is going to require a UDO amendment, as I'd suggested last month at the workshop. So you've got 2 proposals in front of you. The first proposal is simply just keeping it in terms and compensation. It would be section 3.3, section 3.3.2, and section 3.4.2. And basically just saying the regular terms of office for each member shall be 3. It would be changed to 3 years from 1 year on the planning, and then it would remain 3 years on the zoning. And then, of course, we would remove a member cannot serve more than 2 consecutive terms. That is your first proposal. The second proposal would be to remove it from the UDO altogether. And we have checked with Bob. This is something that you could do, is remove. Just leave it on the policy.
Which is less cumbersome change.
Yes, we wouldn't require a public hearing in the future. I'm fine with either one.
So because we would be changing it now, we have to have a public hearing to take it out too.
Yes, we are gonna have to set a public hearing to amend it either way.
So tonight we will be calling for a public hearing.
Yeah, you would go ahead and call for a public hearing and you could, just like we did with the different options last week, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, we would just set a public hearing for both. And you can make a choice at next month's meeting.
And Bob gave a thumbs up, so.
I
We're on
make
the
a
right track.
motion that we set a public hearing for the next regular scheduled board meeting in May for the changes to the UDO terms of the planning and zoning board.
Okay. Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye. Thank you. All right, the next item will be the Planning and Zoning Board appointment. Nope, hold on.
Yeah, it is the
It is,
policy.
it's right.
Yeah.
Planning and Zoning Board appointment policy.
And
Michael?
simply enough, I think we just leave it on there for next month instead of going ahead and approving it now and waiting. We'll just do it all together when we amend the ordinance. That way it stays consistent. So I'd just say, keep this item. We'll just move it over next, another
But
month.
it doesn't require a public hearing.
No, it
This is a
doesn't. I,
policy.
I believe a policy, Gibby, can be changed without a public hearing. Yes.
Okay. Do I have just a consensus that we'll just carry this over for next month? Very good. All right. Number 12, Code of Ordinances Amendments, Michael Mathis.
And I'm still here. So if you'll remember, we've been working on that section 8-16 of the Code of Ordinances, and it's involves the exemptions to the noise ordinance. The only thing that you're going to see changed, I believe from last time, I can't remember if I have amended the item 10, but of course amended item 3 because we discussed allowing construction activities during working hours on non-holiday Saturdays between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. And then Sunday, if I'm correct, we're not going to approve Sunday for commercial activities. So also, oh yes, and what did change item 10, take out non-commercial and just put use of lawnmowers, agricultural equipment and landscape maintenance equipment operated during working hours and on non-holiday Saturdays between 9 to 4 as well. The non-commercial was added in for lawnmowers, agricultural equipment, landscape maintenance equipment that may be operated on non-holiday Sundays. And that's where the non-commercial comes in. So that was the changes to item 10. I believe those were the only two.
So Michael, what you're saying is that even a homeowner on a Sunday can only operate between 12 and 4.
Yes, that is how that would be proposed.
Yeah, understand.
Okay.
So we need a public hearing for this?
I don't believe we need a public hearing. We did check with Bob and he said no on that. So this could be approved tonight, or if you've got any suggestions and we want to make any changes.
This is code of ordinances, right?
Right.
Pretty good with all. I am.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment
Okay.
before we do that. I want to continue to go back to our decibel level maximums. I think we need to look at that and reduce it.
So,
Not that that's going to be done tonight.
no, okay, all right.
But
It could be something though, Buzz, that we go ahead and if you want to just table this until next month, we can just approve it all as one. If y'all want to go ahead and look at the decibel levels
I
next
don't know
month.
that you-
Who's
We-
gonna look at it?
Yeah,
I get-
we've
well,
had
I guess we
problems
could
with
have-
decibel level for 10
I'd move
years.
forward with this.
Yeah, and I mean, we made initial progress because we at least got decibels thrown into the equation. But essentially, they've never changed. I mean, they've come down a little bit. I think we started out at maximum decibel level at 80. In non-residential, which is essentially 5 feet off the rear end of a 747. And no municipality that I know of in the United States has that decibel level. And decibels are not measured as most folks think. When you go to 60 or 70, it's not this is 10 more increments up. It's
logarithmic.
It's logarithmic and it's like 100% more noise. So anyway, if you think you can come up with something in the next month
Or we go
I'd
ahead
say
and
let's go
approve
through
this
this
because it's
and
not
then-
going to.
I'd say we go through this.
I think we do
and then-
what we need to do and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
deal with that. I just would like for us to come back to this, since it's kind of in the mix here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that something you want to see in a workshop coming up or maybe go
For
to
the
Or
decibels.
go to the
Yeah.
planning board? Yes.
Yeah, I
that'd be
think
good.
it'd be great. I think, actually, if we could have some actual, examples. Maybe get the decibel meter and a couple of Marshall speakers, and maybe we can do what we need to do to
Okay.
convince folks.
But what I'm hearing, we need to go ahead and approve what we have next.
Yeah.
Because this decibel thing could get to be rather complex.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. To adopt Article 2 Noise Ordinance Section 8-16 exemptions, correct?
Correct.
Does that cover that, Michael?
I believe so.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm. The next item would be a housing study update, Stephen Julka. I think Kay will join.
I took the microphone. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. Do we have those slides? Oh, thank you. Sorry, don't mean to rush. In the last few months, we have made some progress since our last update to you. Our last update wasn't much of an update because we were just sort of exploring the possibility of pursuing a housing needs assessment that was specific to Highlands in some way in conjunction with the study that Macon County is currently pursuing, and also looking at the possibility of funding that additional Highland specific study through the Dogwood Health Trust, which is funding the Macon County study. In the last few months, we have had a lot of back and forth with Macon County staff, with Dogwood Health Trust, as well as with the consultant. They're called Bowen National. They're out of Ohio, but they have done a lot of housing needs assessments nationally, but particularly in Western North Carolina. They've also worked directly with Dogwood Health Trust funded projects a lot. So they're very familiar with our area and how things work around here, as well as working with Dogwood. So we're excited that they're involved. The result of lots of conversations ultimately resulted in a suggestion from Dogwood themselves in order to simplify the entire process, as well as simplify the funding side of things, to just amend the original grant award that was offered to Macon County for their housing study, to increase the amount of that grant award to accommodate a specific addendum chapter onto the Macon County study that will be specific to Highlands. When I say specific to Highlands, we'll actually sort of get two levels of data in that specific addendum chapter. They will look at what we're referring to as the Highlands area, which will include the Highlands Township as well as the Flats Township. And then there will be another level of specific data that is just for the incorporated town of Highlands. So at the end of the day, we'll sort of have a three-layered housing needs assessment, starting with the county, then with the two townships, and then more specifically to the town of Highlands. So we are thrilled about that opportunity, and we're thrilled that Dogwood actually presented that option for us. So we are now poised to sort of kick that study off, and so I want to just briefly share with you a few of the specifics that have come out with the conversations we've had over the last few months. I am not the consultant doing the study, so I don't have a lot of specifics about real specific data that will be included in the assessment itself. But I am here to just kind of share what we do know and sort of what to expect going forward. So looking at the scope of work, as I mentioned, there's going to be sort of an aggregated full Macon County study. That was the original study that was originally funded by Dogwood. On the left-hand side there, you can see sort of the key topics that will be included in the complete county assessment. Again, that was what was already awarded to the county. That was already sort of contracted before we even piggybacked onto their parade. On the left or the right-hand side, I'm sorry, that is more specific information that is proposed to be included by the consultant that will be specific to, again, the Highlands Township, Flats Township, and then more specifically, the town of Highlands. So the Highlands area will be aggregated into all of that information on the left-hand side at the county level, but then more specific information for our two townships as well as the town. Let's move ahead to costs. These are the estimated costs that were approved by Dogwood in their grant award. The original awarded grant for the county was at $84,500. When we sort of jumped on board and looked at doing a special chapter for Highlands, the town of Franklin got excited. And so they also jumped on board and they were able to work out the same deal with Dogwood that we did. So there will actually be two special addendum chapters onto the county. One will be for Franklin, one will be for the Highlands area. Those are both estimated to be an additional $10,000 worth of work for the consultant. So that brings the total estimated cost and total grant award from Dogwood to $104,500. And that is 100% funded by Dogwood. So no cost to us, no cost to anybody.
Great.
Let's move on. Quick timeline. We are putting the finishing touches on a series of surveys that are going to be a real core part of the needs assessment. Obviously, a consultant can pull all sorts of data from all these great sources, but that data can be a little bit one-dimensional if you're not also hearing from important stakeholders in the community. So so the consultants are finishing up a series of studies. There are series of surveys, sorry. There are 3 different versions of surveys that will be pushed out publicly. One is designed specifically for area employers. One is designed specifically for sort of key stakeholders who work in a housing related field or community leaders who might have, so the questions are a little bit more tailored to people who sort of work more specifically in that area. And then there's a more general public facing survey, and that is designed for any member of the public, but also designed specifically for workers and employees in the community to complete that survey. So many of you will start seeing links in emails to complete surveys. So we encourage you to do that. Again, the overall assessment is a much more rounded look at our current situation when we get more survey responses. So
Can I ask you a question,
Yes.
Stephen? I got something about 2 days ago.
okay,
I did it and submitted it. Did it count?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
So,
Because it's pretty extensive. Yeah.
yeah, it is. For the Highlands area, we actually submitted a stakeholders and all of you are on it. And Bowen sent that out. You'll also
All the
find
commissioners should be.
all the commissioners
responded,
on
yes.
that. Yes, I can share that list with you if you would like, Pat. We also have all, well, not the stakeholders, we have the public and the employer surveys also on the website. And then I've also spoken with our local papers and shared the links, the QR codes, all of that to the studies. The more people we get taking this, the better our information is going to be. We're going to be really working with the businesses to encourage them to have their employees actually fill the survey out. That's a key piece of the information for us. So we're putting a big push on this. The deadline is May 17th. I'm hoping when we get to May 17th, we might be able to push it out a little further. I really want to get those seasonal residents. I know a lot of them will start coming back about that time, but I'd really like to get a good sampling from those residents as well. So when we get a little closer to that, I might ask for an extension. And of course, we have it online, or we're going to be sharing it out. So hopefully a lot of them will see it, especially through the papers. I know a lot of them get those at home, so they'll see it there, and hopefully they'll be encouraged to do that. So please fill it out, share it, the public and the employer one. And Josh, if you guys can put it on the town website, we'll let people know that, they could fill out the survey there if that's possible. It'll be on our website as well.
And
I can send you all of the
and I
information.
wanted to point out, and this group is one, and not everybody necessarily, but I received the stakeholder.
Mhm.
But I also am an employer. I own a business, and I'm also a resident. And
Yes.
all three surveys are very different.
Yes,
So I would encourage, like us, we should fill it out 3 times.
yes, you
If
should.
we're,
If you
so I'm
have a
just, not 3
business, you have
times, but 3
employees.
different surveys. do
Right.
All 3 of them.
You're also a resident, so, take the time to go through. I'm glad you were able to see all 3 of them
Good.
because they are different. It's a different audience. You're going to have a different set of questions.
Mhm.
So I think they were very thoughtful about the way they pulled it together.
I've done 2 of the 3, but I haven't
Okay.
gotten to the 3rd one yet, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I've got a question on the surveys, specifically, the Highlands survey. Were all the questions on the survey developed by Bowen?
All of that was put together by Bowen. We have a committee of, how many people were there from the county, people from the town of Franklin, with us, 10 or 12 people. They shared with us. In fact, that's what was in your agenda. It was one of the early pieces of the survey. So we could go through the questions and we would see, oh, if you answer this, and it's going to skip over to this. If you answer this, you're going to continue answering this. So we all went through it and we submitted some suggestions into them. So it had quite the process from several different, areas looking at that and working on it.
Okay, yeah, I just think it'd be great to have more direct response rather than something just generated
Right.
that would work in anywhere.
Yeah, and that's the reason we really wanted to go to them and say, we need something that is Highlands only. When I approached Dogwood and then also working with the county, it was, we're the outlier in this county. And it hurts them when they're trying to prove need because we skew everything. But we have a very specific need and a different need, say, than other parts of the county. So by doing this, I think we're going to end up with a much clearer picture and with real data that we can actually make decisions from, et cetera. So I have put in a request to Derek that once we get all this information together, hopefully we can have some type of committee from all the different areas that can get together and really look at this and say, okay, what do we have here? What are some possible solutions? I mean, every community is dealing with this, so it's not like we're starting from scratch.
Right.
But I'm hoping we get really great results out of it and we can do some continued work.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you modified some of these questions because they're pretty general.
Yeah.
And not,
Look at
a
all
little too
3.
much opinion and not enough hard data in that part of
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have that data. That's why there, the stakeholder survey is a little bit different. That is geared toward people that really know, such as yourselves, people that are actually out there building and actually working with people that need housing, those types of things. And that's why we went the three types of surveys.
Amy, have you seen the other two yet besides the stakeholder?
No.
Okay, I
Okay.
just saw it today
No,
for
I
the first time.
apparently didn't get my email
Okay,
yet.
well, no, I got it because I was part of the community engagement
Oh,
committee that met this morning. So that's the only reason I really saw it. But the only reason, when you see it, it'll make a lot of sense because the one for residents, the employees, commuters, residents, and then even the employers one is completely different than stakeholders.
That's gonna say,
Because you'll get
I
no
read
info
this
from.
thing and I thought, oh my God, I
Yeah.
can't get anything out of here.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's completely different and it's not a lot of this is a problem, this is not a problem, this is a
Yeah.
problem like that one is.
Yeah.
It's a lot more general questions and it has a lot to do with, affordability, availability, et cetera, et cetera. So it's, you'll see
Well,
with all three.
if I was gonna take the time, I wanted to actually get a lot of good stuff out of it.
Yeah, no, agree.
Yes. And I'm happy, I'll send all three of it. Well, you already received the stakeholders, but I can send all those to you tomorrow, and please do go fill them out. It really helps to go through them.
No, that y'all went through the individual questions because it does make a difference.
It does make a difference, and they
Yeah,
get
and-
into specifics at actually different levels of rent and renting and owning, and whether it's an apartment or a ranch style house, or it gets pretty specific. All right.
And also the Bowen folks are real pros at taking those surveys that are crafted very differently and weaving them together to actually tell a story of what is happening. And they're very good at that. And so I think that we will see a good supplement to the hard data from the surveys. It'll all come together really nicely.
So they're accumulating hard data too.
Oh, yes.
from
Oh,
other
lots.
sources. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
lots.
yes.
Yeah. And so then, just underscoring again that the current deadline for completing those surveys is May 17th. So please, anyone and everyone, take the time to fill them out, and also forward them along to others who you think should be filling them out too. We are currently anticipating the final report to be produced at the end of summer. We don't have a hard and fast date at this time, but we're expecting the final report from Bowen sometime around the end of summer. And then last slide, thank you. In anticipation of that, the folks at Bowen volunteered as part of the deliverable on that final report to do a couple presentations here in Highlands. They propose to do actually two separate presentations, one specifically to the board, and then one that's more of a town hall style public presentation that invites more discussion and conversation. And that was their proposal. That is something obviously that we can discuss further with them and nail down those details once that time approaches. But that's kind of what we're looking at is a pretty nice in-depth presentation at the end of all this. The final thing is there are questions hanging out there about sort of what next, what happens once we have an assessment in hand, and I don't have the answer to that question, but I just want to acknowledge that question is there and that I think many people share it. I think the best answer that anyone can provide at this time is that we'll sort of cross that bridge when we get to it, and we will all enter into the receipt of that final assessment with the hope that that something will come out of it. But there's at this time there's no tangible plan for any sort of implementation at this time, but certainly something that, again, once we get closer to that final report, we can discuss further what that implementation strategy looks like.
I just have one more question. To me, anyway, kind of go hand in hand with housing is also childcare.
Absolutely.
And we haven't addressed this at all, and it's going to be hard to implement things without having some, information about what that has to be, that
Mhm.
part of it too. Yes.
I was just gonna say, you're absolutely right. The sort of the three pillars of a healthy community are housing, childcare, and transportation. You can't have a really healthy one without having relatively healthy others. This is one step in that direction. The chamber is also leading a lot of work on childcare as well.
So for a year or so, I've been meeting with our childcare centers here, and I know Buzz even had one of the organizations come to Rotary and speak. We're doing more than as much as we can to try to get the word out because of the need. There's also some legislation that is going to be ending in June, that if it's not refunded, there will be about 155 childcare centers closed in North Carolina. It's very serious at this point. Working with our local ones, there's, I believe the last count I heard was 71 children on a waiting list. There was a childcare center in Jackson County that closed, and that actually pushed more children up the mountain, probably because their parents work here. But it is a very serious issue. I did have the opportunity to speak with Carl Gillespie and Kevin Corbin about it. So, at the state level, trying to do something at this point, that's really what we need, is for something to happen at the state level. It's extremely difficult to open one, to keep one open. There's, so many restrictions. The money isn't there to really support it. So it's a really big issue coming up in 3 weeks, I think it is. There's a whole group of Western North Carolina chamber directors. We're actually going to Raleigh, and that's one of the main things that we're going to be talking about. We talked to them about it last year, but just really putting that forward and helping them to realize what the serious problem is. I mean, we have so much support here, privately. And if we have 71 children on a waiting
Right.
list, you can just imagine what it would be like in other rural communities. So it is a very serious issue. And we're trying to stay in touch with all of our childcare people. They have formed like a coalition and are meeting on a regular basis. And they're going to be having some conversations with Dogwood going forward in hopes that maybe there's some funding there that, could help relieve. And of course, Jeff and I were just talking this morning about the school project is moving forward so that we'll have the pre-K, and Literacy Council, of course, is trying to help out in the meantime. And hopefully that will relieve, but I don't think it's going to take care of a waiting list of 71 that keeps growing. So thank you for bringing that up. That is really important.
I
We
just
also-
think they go hand in hand. You
They
can't have one without the other.
absolutely go hand in hand, and transportation is another one. And Jeff sat in on our community engagement committee this morning, and we zoomed in Darlene Asher from Macon County with Macon Transit, just to find out, what is it they do? Are they even coming to Highlands? Is there any potential, for more help with that? So it was a good conversation and a good opening conversation, and we learned a lot from that as well. So, yeah, we're keep pulling.
In our future partnership, possibly with the Boys and Girls Club, to replace the Houston Health, where we have after-school care
Mhm.
is a part of that puzzle about addressing the critical
Yes, it is.
It's a
childcare
huge
shortage.
puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah, which starts May 21st, correct? Is that the date? Boys and Girls
Yes.
Club?
Opening
at
up
the
at
hospital.
the hospital.
Yeah, but I
yes.
mean, in our community.
Yes,
In
yes.
this community.
Yes, in this community, and that will really help, so everybody's like trying to do as much as they can. Some of the childcare centers are also opening their hours more for summer camps and things like that, because parents are, getting off from work, their hours are a little different. So they're really doing a great job of working together and trying to meet the need.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Stephen. Mhm. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank
guys so
you.
much. We will keep you posted as things develop.
Thank you for rushing back too.
Yes.
I walked in just as y'all finished the pledge of allegiance.
That's a long drive.
Yeah, he came back from Charleston today to be here. He
Because
gave me his
missed last
slides
time
and
'cause
I'm
he wasn't
like,
here.
please be here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, 14, Business Committee and Government Committee.
Yes,
Kim.
I want to start with a thank you for you guys for bringing in our businesses and be willing to listen. I think it's extremely important. It's a relationship between government and businesses and our private citizens, and communication is key. I think we have a lot of things in common and a lot of common goals. And so we're happy to form the Business and Government Relations Committee. I have been meeting with Brian and Jeff, and they have been great, to come in, and we've been talking through it. We do have kind of a draft mission, which is promote and encourage ongoing conversations between the town of Highlands government and business community to capture a broad perspective and drive informed decisions. And our goals really are to identify what are our common goals, and then to also improve that working relationship and to continue going forward for the betterment of the community. I read the community plan and I was a part of that. I read our strategic plan. They look like, they're sisters. So I think this is going to be a great opportunity to work together. And I'm really very pleased that we have two commissioners that are willing to serve with us and work on that. And we are going to do a kickoff meeting toward the end of May. We'll get that started. And then the committee will meet every other month in our regular committee cycle. And we'll come back and, talk with you guys about what we learn and share and all that. And I'm sure Brian and Jeff will. Do you guys want to throw anything in here?
I would just say, from my perspective, is when we sat here and listened to the businesses, it was from their perspective, and they don't realize what our perspective is.
That's
And
why we're doing
maybe
this.
part of the communication needs to be not just us listening, but them listening too.
Well, I think that's part of the
Absolutely,
process.
yeah.
Correct.
Well, that's just it. It's communication. That's a two-way communication. So, and I think, it goes both ways, that we don't always understand everything that's going on the other side. I've been amazed at the things that I've learned just from sitting in meetings. It's like, oh, that's why they're doing that, so this will give us a way to talk in a setting that is comfortable and hear both sides and try to come to a consensus when we can, and to work on those common goals together.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about it. And I appreciate you guys starting with a listening session and then working with us to keep that going.
And I'd also like to say, I'll volunteer myself for this too, is the neighborhood group too.
I was gonna bring that up. Okay,
So,
we need to start a similar process.
Well, I'm just saying that from my perspective, we listen, but we have never given them our perspective.
Mhm.
You're not proactive, and yet we spent millions of dollars to get Wi-Fi in here so that all your economy would not collapse when it did. So that's pretty proactive, and they don't give us any credit for that. So
Right.
I think it needs to be in both directions.
Absolutely. And that's why we have representatives from the commissioners, two commissioners on there, and with some businesses. I think it'll be a great effort.
And again, to me, the whole reason I had brought this up in the first place is just to have a continued dialogue. I think it will help to relieve having to take a work session where we just listen basically. And like you said, listen to hear what we've done wrong or has been done wrong. Whereas this can be a dialogue to where you can explain why, you can explain in a very controlled, I say controlled. I mean, it's going to be a discussion. It's a roundtable. It's not a let us know your thoughts and then we contemplate. That was the whole reason that I.
Or
like
it's
I said,
not, let us know your thoughts. We're gonna go to work and get it all done. That's not what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
either.
or what the challenges are, or why that's not
Mhm.
quite as as easily said than done.
Or from our perspective, it's not exactly what you're presenting.
No, exactly. And
Yes.
there's a lot of it that we get blamed for that's either state mandated or et cetera, that,
Right.
again, it's as much about the dialogue and education on both sides.
Both sides.
So y'all would
Absolutely.
be our liaisons
Correct.
to this
For,
committee.
for right now, yes.
Okay, and you'll report back
Mhm.
in May. And let me follow up on what Commissioner Stevens said about the neighborhood groups. I was looking at our workshop where we have 360 or 70 business accounts. We have 2,100 residential
yeah.
accounts. If you were to eliminate the short-term rentals, but you wanted to, it's still 1,800 seasonal and permanent residents. And I do want to just do a similar type of outreach to the neighborhood association to see if we can't set up a communication line there too. And Lila and Kathy have asked us to consider that as of even tonight. So I'd like to see us do that too.
Well, I mean, I'll work on that. If you wanna, like, I can get with you and we can put a group together if that's.
Okay.
Well, and I do think it needs to be a broad spectrum of the group. And I'm
Yeah,
not picking on one group or the other, but you have the neighborhood coalition, you have certainly the opposition to that. You have, and I think a dialogue between all of the groups is the best way to sit down and have a conversation. So,
Absolutely.
about all those things. So
Okay.
I agree. I think that'd be great if you would.
Okay. Shall we now move on to the next item?
All right.
And that will be the dog park.
Dog parks.
Oh, you're on
Um,
that too.
I know, sorry. I had Stevens speak, so at least it breaks it up a little bit. You have to keep listening to me. So I'm really excited I do have a dog. If you come to the Welcome Center, you'll meet him. We had received quite a few complaints about the dog park, and it's great that we have one. You know, we are such a dog-friendly community. And it's a great asset for our community, but it really has been worn down. The landscaping has really overgrown. So started with Tate Landscaping, talked to them about it a little bit, and we actually went out there and walked the property and took a look. And so they have come up with kind of a re-landscaping and improvement plan for that. And the chamber would like to pay to have this re-landscaping done. I know Matt has been talking a lot with Josh. We wanted to make sure that everything was as the town would want it to be. The only thing that I can really think of that's new is in the top left-hand corner, you see like another little walkway coming in there. That's a walkway, so you could actually park up at the top and be on the concrete and then come in through there. So it makes it more ADA compatible, which I think is a great thing to do. There has been an extension of the pea gravel around the little pavilion that is there, and a little more brick added there too. So if you're coming in there, you know, with a wheelchair or a walker or whatever you're dealing with, you've got more of a space to be able to work around there. And then there's a lot of drainage problems, especially over on the right-hand side where all the trees and everything are. And there's a great little like trail where the dogs love to run. And I know an owner that used to actually run with her dog through there. So she was getting a little exercise too. And there's a real drainage problem there. And then at the bottom where you actually go in the gate in to go in. So this will address some of the drainage problems and will hopefully eliminate that. Of course, fresh materials, trimming things back, the trees and the plants and everything are like growing through the fence. So all of that will be trimmed back and made much nicer. They're going to try to get a little more grass growing up on that left-hand side too. Josh, anything else you can think of to point out on the plan? Because I know you and Matt spent some time together on this.
Well, I will say that the upper entrance is the big addition. We did talk about too, a leash area, I think they call it, where when you enter and exit, you can remove the leash or put the leash on, and that's shown up there now. The only issue is with ADA, and there's no way the parking is above in the parking lot of the rec park, so you do have to walk down a hill to enter into the new hard walkway going in, so it will not be completely ADA on the
Right.
entrance. But I know a lot of people have said that they would like to be able to enter in from that top.
Right.
So I think that would be a good addition. The concrete is widened around the pavilion, I think will help with the shedding of the water. The drainage in this large white area, it drains really bad from the shelter all the way down to the current entrance. And it's hard to keep chips in there. And I know that Matt was talking about going in there and actually creating some diffusion areas to where the water will slow down to prevent that washing out into the bottom parking lot. So I think it is a definite improvement that's needed to the facility.
And what is the total cost?
39, 40. Was it 39 or 40? Let's
I think
just
he
say
mentioned
40.
something around 40,000, I think is what he's.
Yeah.
mentioned to me.
Can I just ask, should we be thinking of a ongoing maintenance plan so that we don't have to wait another 10 years, have it degrade and do it again? I mean, I
You
don't
know-
know what we do right now, frankly.
I don't,
Lester.
When we met down there, and if we went through this, got the project done, they were gonna write us a maintenance plan that we would put in with our contract
Okay.
labor for each year.
Okay. I just thought it doesn't make sense to do it all and then let it,
They
Fall
go in
apart
there and
again.
mow it, but we go in 2 or 3 times a year. with chips. They dump it down, we go and spread.
it'd be a lot less expensive to,
that's what I'm saying. You do
What's
it a little bit every year and not
Yes.
have to,
What would the
Exactly.
time frame be on this? Like, I mean, it's, did you say that part of the fence is down now from the
I
storm?
think Lester's gonna have it fixed. We had there was one long tree, a maple, I think. Wasn't in great shape, but it was in the center of that wide area there. It actually fell last week and it damaged the fence, and Lester's having that repaired now. But a lot of those bushes are growing through the fence. That's what they're gonna trim back to leave a little bit of a buffer area on the outside part of the fence.
right. I was hoping that we could get it done by season. The faster we get them on it, before it starts getting super busy, the more we can get done. Did Matt give you any kind of time frame? We've been talking with them for several months about this, so at this point, we're already, almost at the end of April, so I'd have to go back to Tate and say, all right, we got it, let's go. And see what they can get done. Jeff's shaking his head
I
like,
think
you
it's
think that
great.
they
And
could
if
do
you all
it?
are willing to pay for it, I'm 100%.
yeah, me too.
And then on
But I
top of
want to
that,
know how we keep
Yeah,
it
and actually-
maintained, so you don't have to pay for it every
Yeah,
10 years.
and actually
for
Tate
$20,000.
Landscaping just got the contract for the rec park anyway. So, and for next year, then potentially, I don't know if it's a 1 year, 2 year. Then next year we could just say include this additional and then everybody would be bidding apples to apples and.
But sometimes you need to have a specific trim the branches so
Yeah.
the rotos don't go through your
Yeah,
fence.
and
you
that's
know,
what-
and that- Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's what Jim Tate and Matt Mason are willing to help write up. So you have it as
Yeah,
part of
It's
your,
like a job description.
Yeah.
You need to know what they actually need to do.
but no, I'm 100% in favor of it. So.
Okay.
It's needed.
It is needed.
And I will tell you, when this is complete, and whether I go to Clayton or Brevard or several places with a dog and go into it, finding a dog park to let them run around a little bit, because we've been out doing things. This is one of the much nicer ones that you'll ever be to, ever go to, because it's especially for a town this size, because like the Clayton one is kind of an afterthought. You walk around a baseball field and find it in the back corner under the trees, and I mean, this is very nice.
Well, it's Highlands. It should be nice.
I don't disagree at all.
Do you guys need to vote on that for me to give Tate a go ahead or just an
Probably, 'cause
agreement?
it's Town property, I would think so.
Yeah. we
Yeah.
will need a vote.
I'll make a motion to approve you spending your money to do this plan.
We're happy to do it.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, the next item will be the Oak Street streetscape proposal. Hank Ross. Hank, thanks for waiting.
This is Chuck Kreckelberg. He's the architect on the project.
And we're talking about the
Yes.
Scudder's renovation.
Yes, Scudder's renovation at 356 Main Street. The property extends to Oak Street. And if you could please go, I think, ahead 2 images. Yep, one more. So that rendering, yep, the one right there. This rendering currently there's a single roof and a long building on that facade. There's access to a storage area, access to a freight elevator, which the Scudder Auction House used. What we're here to talk about today is the loading zone, which is 101 feet. And the proposal that the owner of the property would like to make is really beautification of the apron. So it's a concrete apron that goes the 101 feet, really across what used to be 3 parcels, but it's a single parcel with multiple buildings. And what we're doing is over on the left side, you have access to the 4 incidental apartments. In the middle, you have access to the freight lift, which brings you down to Main Street. And so that will continue to have some loading functions associated with the next tenant. We don't yet have a tenant for that space, but that Main Street space, half of the property on Main Street used to be the Scudder Auction House. The other half is Celebrity Collections. So all of this is part of that same parcel. So the middle portion has the freight lift and really provides some good access to the Main Street commercial tenant. Over on the right side, what we're doing is we're changing what was a storage building, and we've increased the load bearing capacity of the floor. We've brought it up to commercial code, and that space will be another commercial tenant. The essence of what we're doing on Oak Street is really activating Oak Street with the ABC store that's going to be happening across the street and other development on the street. What we'd like to talk about is the idea, not necessarily of changing the function of that loading zone, but maybe subtly redefining it and more importantly, beautifying it. If you do the math, a loading zone is 9 feet by 40 for a box truck. And with that 101 feet, we end up having 3 bulb outs, so planted areas that Hank will talk about, at about 7 feet of width, and then 2 loading zones. The question the owner has, and what we're showing in the rendering, is currently, and I understand that there was, I think, a lot of discussion previously about this particular area, whether it's parking or loading. I'm not aware of that history, but we currently have a loading zone. What the current owner would like to ask is, could half of that, could we actually convert half of that loading area to parking, where we would have 2 parking spaces and 1 loading zone without an auction house or furniture store in that space? We may not need as much loading. A compromise in between the 2. So what the owner's asking for is a reduction of 100% loading to 50% loading. If you all were to say it needs to stay loading, that's what was negotiated. What we may want to look at is over on the residential side, because we have those 4 incidental apartments, maybe that's designated as passenger loading. Hank, if you want to.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you say parking, would it be public parking or designated for?
Oh, no, it would not.
It'd
We
be public
understand it's
parking.
it's the city's property. And what the renters of the apartments would do is if, you know, if the space opens up,
They park there.
they'd park there.
Okay,
Uh,
but anybody could park there.
That's correct.
Go back to the first one. Okay, yeah, you know, what, the crux of the thing is appearance, but, you know, also there's environmental reasons to have planters and to remove some asphalt in cities for heat island kind of effects. And so what we're looking at is on the south side, which is the building, the lower part of what we're looking at here is the old Scudder's building. Looking at putting in 3 planters, they would be about 7 feet by 7 feet, or 7 feet wide at the sidewalk, and then narrow to 2 feet out of the street. And looking to provide enough space to have some small trees in there. There's a power line and other utilities running. It's like 25 and 20 feet right there. So we're looking at having some small trees in that location, and then have other plant material in the planters. And it would provide break up the look of that whole area and the facade of the front. And then also looking at providing some small brick planters that might be knee high, a little bit more. That would be actually attached to the building that would provide some other planters. And those planters are would be about 18 feet, 18 inches in depth. And there's 5 of them there. And they would add to the beautification of the front and break up just kind of a monotonous, actually, it's not monotonous, they did a great job, facade. But it would really just add to the look of the building. And so with the planters that are out in the street, we still have enough room for a loading zone of 40 feet depth. And what the proposal is to have two parking places that could be loading parking as well. And then the proposal also shows what could be done across the street at the Playhouse. The owner's not proposing doing that himself. It really is to kind of spur on some ideas. You know, looking for this maybe to be a catalyst to kind of improve Oak Street like the community plan suggests. And so, you know, it would be really nice to do. And it would also, you could extend it in front of the ABC store as well. It would really change the entire look of Oak Street in that area. And so that's, you know, that's really what we're looking at. The plant materials I've already researched and done. We're looking at about 80% native plant materials. The trees would be larger on the other side, the Playhouse side. And so that's, you know, that's really what we're looking at to do. And we're looking for approval. The owner would pay for the streetscape in front of his building. It includes a brick sidewalk as well with no curb for loading and that sort of thing. And so the drainage works really very well in that area. It's really about. Gibby, can you go back up to this previous slide? Up again. Yeah. Or yeah, I can just see it right there. I just wanted to see that compared to.
Hank, you mentioned currently there are 3 parking spaces on the other side of the
Yes.
street.
Yeah, oh yeah. Currently, on the Playhouse side, there's 3 parking places. One of them is 20 feet, one of them is about 24 feet, and the other one's 28 feet.
And so this is proposing restriping, and there's still enough room for a planter at the end where the entrance is to the playhouse and the police station. It would really provide a different look. You know, I'm not sure what's gonna happen, playhouse. Those trees that are there on the playhouse property may end up losing those according to what the town does with that property. And so it would be really nice to introduce some additional planting.
Hey, when you say on the Scudder side, the larger trees, when you're calling them planters, are those container or is that in ground?
It's in ground. It would be a curb around it.
Sound like on Main Street.
Yes, very
Same
similar
kind
to
of
Main
thing.
Street.
So it's not there.
No grates, so
It's okay, so that's
sidewalk
not
is inside.
I would say this, Oak Street, we used to have dumpsters there and it was kind of like an alleyway.
And that's what.
And we're gradually transforming it with the ABC store with this project and eliminating the dumpsters where I can see that becoming kind of another thoroughfare for the town.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I may be mistaken, but I think that it's still allowed employee parking. And I think if it is, we need to change that. In other words, if we're gonna streetscape this like it is Main Street and it's just a block off, I mean, even before this, I was thinking that we needed to push the employee parkings out to where they're not a block off Main Street. Okay, and if you're gonna be making more parking there, it should not be for my opinion anyway. Main Street, the businesses are constantly saying they need more parking. Well, there's no more parking to give them, but I can give them employee parking. And if I'm not mistaken, Oak Street is allowed employee parking.
It is.
And the idea is over by the Baptist church.
Right,
That area.
from Second Street to First Street,
Yeah.
it's never full.
Yeah.
I mean, I would almost take the employee parking all the way to Third Street.
So-
Yeah. Do what now? Oh, yeah. Because loading is one of those necessary things.
Right, but designated, just loading those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know, that have to get worked out, but I just think we're talking about streetscaping something that is actually not part of our commercial downtown visitor experience. To me, anyway, I think if.
It will be, I guess.
Well, the
headed that
reason
way.
is to make it part of. the
Right, but
community.
what I'm saying is that I don't want, you don't want employees parking in front of it, just like we didn't want them on Main Street. So we should push the employees down.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
from Third Street or from Second Street to First Street.
And Amy, I'm 100% with you, 100%. And I think, I mean, I very much like this plan. I like the concept of it, et cetera. Of course, the loading zone is going to be open to the public as far as if another business 2 doors down
Wants to do it.
has UPS parking there, so be it.
Right, but I think designated during business hours that it is loading zone.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually, I would designate it,
All the time.
period.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise,
Yeah.
you know, so,
I just
because
don't know if they're thinking they're just having like
'Cause-
parking there and stuff.
how long ago did the fire department move?
About a year.
Yeah.
So within that year, that has become employee parking.
Oh, yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
So that has like 10 cars parked in front of the old fire department. But what I will say is, let's also keep in mind, yeah, I like what's happening in front of the Playhouse. It's a great suggestion. I like what you're kind of launching it. Prior to that, the ABC store, their redesign actually has 4 planters and 2 parking places that are public. And then they have on-site parking, but down there, and it's extending that sidewalk in front of the Playhouse and takes it all the way down to the EMS. So it's already starting on the other side of the street. And they're working on that right now, as you all are.
Interestingly, that those 2 trees that come where the Playhouse entrance is, I'm looking at it on Google Earth here, and this is from a couple of years ago, but that was where those 2 trees are closest to the Playhouse or on the sidewalk entrance where we extended it. That used to be the location of a dumpster, one of those dumpsters.
Yeah,
that-
it was. It was.
So it's a beautification
And then
project.
down below, you have the Veterans Park,
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So, yeah, long story short, I like the concept. I like the direction of it. I think ABC store is gonna be, y'all are gonna be kind of going hand in hand timeline wise. The town can revisit the other part at the
Can we go
Playhouse.
to that first slide? The view of the, where the tables are?
Perspective.
Yeah, the perspective.
Two more.
No,
Yeah,
other way,
yeah,
other
yeah.
way. One more. There we go. I've got a question for you. What are those tables gonna be used for? And does that meet ADA? Have you
Great.
factored in it's still
Great
ADA?
question.
Okay,
Currently, I think a business, either a law firm or something like that, would be utilizing that space. We may not be allowed to have those tables there, because the building does go up to the property line. That was as much for rendering visualization. Because really what we're here to do today is to ask the question, can we activate
okay. And-
this,
and-
this
and my
concrete
response is
slab?
this.
You
I
know,
like the tables as
Oh.
long as the sidewalk meets ADA
That's right,
standards.
that's right.
I don't, yeah.
Well, my only feeling, only because, I mean, if they're completely on town property, that's something to be discussed at a
That's
later
right.
date.
That's
What
right.
I'd love, and I assume what you're asking for is, we kind of have a consensus, we like the direction, so that you can also then you can put together actual physical drawings with showing the property lines, the setbacks,
correct.
et cetera, et
That's
cetera. Okay.
and work with staff to really dial it in.
Right.
Because up to this point, we've been operating under, it was a concrete slab, it was an apron.
Gotcha.
That was dedicated to loading, and we wanted to really start the discussion with you
Okay.
all to see if we do have enough width
Mhm.
that if you were to say, it needs to stay loading, we can accommodate loading and a little bit of greening of the space, and that's a good compromise, but we could take it a little bit
So
further.
what you're asking us is kind of a consensus to proceed, and you'll come back with a specific design.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it'd be great to enhance that area,
I do too.
and as I say, it's just a block off Main Street, so it's another walking area that should be utilized.
So,
And then I'll get drunk off the ABC store.
Yeah.
Get those
You know,
little-
it
Those
actually,
little minis or whatever
Yeah.
they're called,
And-
where you go in and you,
and back to the parking, it actually, like right now, it's all loading zone. And it's 3 places on the Playhouse side. And this is showing 3 additional parking places from what exists right now.
2 would be at your client's expense, and then the other one, if you take the advice and we can look at it further, would be at the town if we decide to roll on that side.
That's
which-
correct.
Yeah,
okay. So I guess we need to have a motion or not for them to proceed, or
I'd like to see, I mean, Hank, would it be wrong, like, to ask, as you like go through this, what, like, if we could lump that other side of the street in with that and kind of work out, do it at the same time possibly, and then work on pricing for that, and then
You're saying conceptualize the whole.
No, you're saying that you would like for,
so like,
For-
so
for
the
our-
other, so like, obviously, you're wanting to do your side, but I'm saying the other side, it'd be nice to like do it all at the same time, and if, while you're getting the trees and everything, and then.
I think the only potential problem with that is we don't know what's gonna happen with the Playhouse.
Yeah, but,
Whether-
but regardless of what happens, I mean, I see
But
what
you
you're
you
saying,
might
but
have to
regardless of
use
what
that
happens.
as a
We wouldn't have a
construction
street
area.
Yeah, I mean,
You
it
know.
just, yes,
I don't know, I'm just saying, we don't know what's gonna
I mean, I
go.
don't have an issue with
yes.
like the side of the street that they're working on.
Yes.
Oh, no, not at
I'm
all.
just more excited about the other side
Yeah.
of the street.
Brian,
Could you go back?
could you go back to the first one? Yeah, really, the only real change on the Playhouse side shows is having an area, a bulb out.
Yeah, that's what I'm
There.
saying, yeah.
And over on this side, this is a no man's land. It's not deep enough for parking.
Yeah,
It's It's just
Yeah, like I-
asphalt smeared around where it should, doesn't really need to be. And so, and so really, that's the only change. that we did.
And my only question was the logistics of when that should be done, if we don't know what's gonna happen on the
Well,
playhouse property.
yeah, the owner is willing to do the work on their side.
Right.
And,
Right.
and I guess we can talk to them about, preparing the drawings for both sides. I doubt that's gonna be a problem, but we'll find.
And I don't think we're not asking for you all to potentially pay for that. It's just a
No, I'm
matter
saying
of-
to get. to
Plan
go
Yeah,
for it,
but still,
we could
there's-
Plan on it and then do, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just would hate not to get like the same trees too.
It's actually pretty,
Oh, same size.
pretty
Yeah.
Same
close.
So they
size, or
look the
same, you
same.
get like,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that same,
Right.
whatever tree, I forget what it was that you were using, but if that specimen's not available or something.
Well,
So
but one
what-
side has utilities. I don't think the playhouse side has utilities,
No,
which
they don't.
means
That's right,
larger
yeah, there's no
trees
utilities,
would be
overhead.
appropriate or could be.
Right. Pin oaks.
Pin oaks,
Yeah, I thought that's what.
pin oaks.
Oh, they
are
both have underground.
Classic street trees.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay,
So I guess I'm
Just a
looking
general
at consensus
yeah.
to, go back, develop the plans and bring them back to us and we're on board.
Well, actually, that's kind of exciting to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of an eyesore.
Yeah.
yeah, and the town could take the streetscape in front of,
Further down.
further towards the town hall too as well.
Sure. Okay. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
guys.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Okay, our next item would be financial matters. Rebecca Schuler. We have two acknowledgements that we need to, in resolutions we need to address.
So the first item that you're looking at is a resolution for the Dog Mountain project. It's another one of those, as the mayor said, papers just keep coming at us. And it's something that we haven't done. So you're just accepting the grant. Basically, it's a resolution from the board saying that you're accepting the
I'm
grant.
kind of lost in paper grant. I thought we'd done this.
We have
but-
not done this one.
Okay.
We've done the project ordinance. We did a resolution to begin with, to get the grant. We've done everything else. This is the
Okay.
last,
$3 million.
yes.
And it seems to me we need to take action on each item separately. So the first thing would be the
Yes,
resolution of
do the
acceptance
resolution
of the Dog
first.
Mountain grant. Do I
And
have a
this
motion?
would be the final step, so that once they get the approval back, the design is almost finished.
Yes.
Once they send that in, there's no idea when it'll be approved. It could be 6 months, but once it's approved, they'll be able to go ahead and bid the project
So they'll be shovel ready.
and be ready to,
Yes.
be ready
Okay.
to start it.
I would entertain a motion to approve this or a resolution to accept the Dog Mountain grant. So moved. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. And then the next one, Rebecca.
The second item you have is $1,000 grant that the fire department received from Haywood EMC. And he wanted to buy 2 pieces of equipment. So you have a budget amendment as well. You just need to accept the grant from Haywood and then approve the budget amendment to where it's coming in and going to the line item that Gerhart wanted to buy the pieces of equipment for.
So the motion would be to accept the grant and to have a budget amendment to reflect that.
Exactly.
So moved. I think we could do it all in one.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, who made the motion? Amy in second. Okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand, saying aye. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, item number 18. That will be a closed session pursuant to GS 143-318A3 to consult with the attorney in order to preserve attorney-client privilege and to consider and give instructions to an attorney concerning the handling of the or settlement of the Huff TAL versus Town of Highlands. Do I have a motion that we go into closed session?
So move.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Thank you. We are now in closed session. We will reconfigure and consult with our attorney.
Hey, Mayor, am I staying on this call or is there a separate Zoom link?
What now?
Is there a separate Zoom link for the closed session or am I staying on this one?
Gibby's working